I'm Caroline Rena, and I want to welcome you to my new podcast. I can still say that, called Awakening Soul Divinity. And what I'm doing here is I'm bringing people in to share their experiences and knowledge and ideas, just conversation style, nothing, real formal or anything, just to have a nice time and learn new things. I learn stuff every day. I want to say that I'm grateful for you being here, and I'm ready for my second guest, and that is Fred DeFalco. And hi, Fred, how are you doing?
Fantastic. Glad to be here.
Good, good. I asked him to come on and he graciously agreed because I am part of one of his groups, and he can explain it better, but I'm just going to go over a little bit of that and then we'll move into the conversation. So he started something called the 920 Society, and I wanted to share the mission so you can have an idea, and then I'll let Fred kind of go in a little bit deeper. The 920 Society is committed to fostering a community where social entrepreneurs and change makers come together to support one another with a purpose to change the world with peace and goodwill for all. We believe in the power of collective wisdom and the strength of unity. Here you can share your challenges, receive public guidance, and contribute to the collective growth of society. And I wanted to do this interview with you so I can learn more about the 920 Society and what you're doing to help change the world. Because there's moments, I was explaining to him earlier, there's moments where I get so busy that I don't have time to pop in there, and I do my best. So it's something that I think is a huge thing that you're doing, and I'm so grateful that you're out there doing it. And we all need to come together because that's how things grow and that's how things change. And Fred, if you want to kind of go into what kind of work you do in the world and explain to our audience, exactly what the 920 Society is, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. And first of all, Caroline, I just because we know we know one another now for what, 6 months, I think 7 months.
I don't know. We've been friends on Facebook for longer than that. I can
Yeah,
tell you.
yeah, longer than that, yeah, Facebook. But I'm talking about when we had our first.
Yeah, I think so. Something like that.
Just joining 920. But anyway, I'm so proud of you. I really like the way you're just taking all the things that's happened in your life, because success is nothing more than the artful management of failures and setbacks. And as long as you're artfully managing your failures and setbacks, you're as successful as anybody ever will be. Even if you have billions of dollars, and I've flown on the jets of the billionaires, I've spent time in many, many prison cells with people on death row, one, my own brother, who died after 28 years. So, success is not what we think it is, right? So success is nothing more than artfully managing failures and setbacks. So that's number one. So you are so successful, because when I look at what you've accomplished with what
Wow.
you're doing on Facebook and your community and now the podcast, it really, I mean, you're just a light. So thank you. And that's one of the reasons I started the 920 Society, by the way. So in a nutshell, I'm 70 years old. I spent 50 years in business and all types of different pursuits. I've climbed many, many ladders, and I got up to the top and I realized, I went, wait a minute. That's not the building I was looking for. That's not the building I was looking for. That's not the building. No matter how many millions of dollars or this or that, it's this. There still was something that I was seeking for truth. Right. I was 35 years uh, I always go real carefully when I say what it was, because I don't want anyone right away to put a label, but it was a formalized systems of belief that fell more under the arena of Christianity, and spent 35 years in that. And that box was very comfortable for me. I love my box, right? Because I was able to stay in there and tell everybody else how they were so wrong and that didn't work and that's not right. No, the reason that's happening, the reason that's happening. And I was comfortable in that box, right? So, but the problem is, I was only comfortable from the outside in, not the inside out. And so the box was stopping me from the inside out. And what was going on? And then that led me otherwhere from to reaching the very ladders, the very top of different businesses and land development and real estate and all kind of things. But again, I wasn't satisfied from the inside out. I knew all the theology. I was a self-taught theologian, and I could go on and on about that, but there's still something that was going, what is going on with this thing?
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, 40 years to marriage. In 2012, I'm sitting there and, looking around at the $35 million worth of real estate I owned. And, the world was coming apart in 2008, 9, and 10. And I saved a company. And then in 2012, now the whole thing was come crashing down. And 40-year marriage, there's something wrong, something wrong. I said, I'm going to find the truth. So I literally said to my wife, at the time, I said, you know what? I'm going to rip everything up in my life and I'm going to just throw it up in the air and let all the pieces fall and see where I use the word God, to see where God leads me to try to put it all back together again. So that's what I did. I just said, this is not working. I said, I'm sorry, this is not working. 40 years, as hard as we tried, as all the things that we did. And I won't go into all the details because, you don't have 8 hours. No one's going to watch it 8 hours. But anyway, I ripped it up, threw it up in the air. And I said, what is all this about? What is this about? I threw up my religious belief, everything I could do. I just ripped them all up. I just said, I'm going to just find the truth for me, find the truth for me.
Mm-hmm.
2000, that was January 2012. January 2013, we finalized the divorce. At the same time, I was battling banks, 2, 3 major banks, full time for a living now over my different real estate holdings, a hotel, apartment complexes, land development. And so that was all throughout 2013. January 2014, I get a call from actually it was December, the end of 2023, the day after Christmas, that my 36-year-old daughter was sick. She got the flu. So next thing I know, the day after, my son-in-law calls me, says, I just took Sandy to the doctor. They're rushing her to the hospital. She can't breathe. That turned into her death on January the 5th, 2014. So that was another life experience. So I thought, wow, what's that about? So then 2000, and the next year, all the legal battles, and in 2016. So I just kept saying, what is true wisdom? What is true? What is all this about? Then I got involved in A Course in Miracles. This was about 8 years ago. So when I was 63, actually 7 years ago now, almost 8 years ago, got involved in A Course in Miracles. That really shed a lot of light on some things for me. And then I really got deeper and deeper into that. But then I was led to a meeting uh, that it's all about the inner child work. Many people have been through different types of inner child work, but this was really intense. All weekend long, we spent 32 hours in one weekend. Mm-hmm. And for the first time, I went, oh my gosh, I spent my entire life trying to prove to the world I was good enough. I made millions of dollars proving to the world that I was worthy. I was good enough. I gave my entire life to other people because I was proving to the world that I was good enough. And that was just the beginning. So then as I would keep seeking, my constant people say, hey, what can I do? What can I pray for? I just want wisdom from above, wisdom from above. I want to make sure it's wisdom from above. So that was it. And so meanwhile, I was back in the real estate brokerage business again. So I started a mastermind for the real estate people I was serving, my real estate team. And the more I got into the real estate business again, back into the brokerage business, I realized, because I had been away from really close interaction with people because my career had taken me from the brokerage business where I dealt with agents on a day-to-day basis and sellers and buyers, because I was doing more land development. I was doing more things that were basically just working with myself, right? Now I worked for a lot of different people, but not one-on-one where you get personally involved. So anyway, I started working with them. So I opened up a mastermind for them. And then the more we got into it, I realized that, oh my gosh, nothing's changed. People are they're failing miserably because of themselves, right? They don't know who they are. They don't. And of course, the Miracles is very clear. It says, who would you be if you didn't know who you were? And that question, when I first read it the first time, wow, what a powerful question. Who would you be if you didn't know who you were? And so that just led to one thing to another of circumstances in my life that kept drawing me toward the higher wisdom. And whether you believe in the scriptures, don't believe in it, where you've been beaten the head with it when you're a kid, it all doesn't matter. But there's some great mantras in there, right? And one of the mantras, one of the verses is that wisdom from above is pure, peaceful, and powerful. And the wisdom from below is full of strife, conflict, and those types of things. So I said, wow, it's all I want is wisdom from above. So the more I kept praying that prayer to myself and to life and to everything, um, you know, and my life was going well from the outside still with the divorce and all these other things that I met the woman of my dreams, that da da da. I can go on and on and on. It was engaged, but still, I had a new ladder. I was at the very top of a relationship. And I went, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I would have ordered this from the very beginning, and it would have been on my list of the best in the world. But still, there was something from the inside out, and so that's when more seeking. And then just one morning, 7 years ago, I had the influence. My youngest granddaughter, 7. So it was right after she was born. I was up in Tennessee at my hotel. I still had a hotel then. And I was in the morning really seeking and praying, just meditation and stuff. And so I go, wow, man, this is crazy. I'm still, what's going on? And it just came to, well, she's 18 years old. A great ambition would be the Nobel Peace Prize. I went, Nobel? What? Nah. What? Wait a minute. Let me recheck that. So, because what I was realizing at that time, that belief systems, all belief systems, I don't care whether it's agnostic, atheist, religious, Mormon, Muslim, Jews, Christians, Jehovah's Witnesses, you name them, right? And our own, right? Is that all our belief systems? Then I started studying people like Dr. Bruce Lipton with epigenetics, the fact that our first 7 years of our life, that's it. We're programmed. We're programmed. And you will run on that program over and over again, and you just keep repeating it. And then with the course I took, and I went, oh my gosh, we're all just our belief systems. That's all we are. So if we can empty our head of our belief systems, who would we be? Who would you be if you didn't know who you were? And that was the greatest gift ever given to me, because I started realizing I was nobody. I had to be nobody. I just had to be me, right? Not me to my made up me, not the one my mother, father's teachers, and preachers made up, or my experiences made up, or business made up, or my lack of education made up. I only have an 8th grade education, formal education. But that was the most freeing thing, going, wow, there's something powerful about this. So I just kept working on that journey, working with real estate salespeople now, transforming their careers again by just getting them to identify, you know, get rid of all the stuff, all the belief systems that kept holding them back, and knocking down all the barriers and all those types of things. So that mastermind then started growing a little bit within the real estate industry. But then I started getting calls to say, hey, can you help this person, that person, their marriage, this marriage? So where my life was going, and then just 2 years ago, my ex was, long story, but she ended up in hospice, on her hospice bed, and so my own children, I went to start helping her, and before she got on her hospice, 2 weeks before we got to the hospice, I went and I showed up. I said, "Oh, wait a minute, this is a medication problem. This is this problem, that problem," and then of course, their belief systems from the doctors, and really believing that the doctors know what they're doing, and where she was headed, which was her deathbed, is that it was true. It was right. It was real. Well, the morning of September 29th, 2 years ago, which was what, 22 now. So that was my 69th birthday. That night, I literally revived her body, revived her thinking, cleared her out, flushed her whole body with organic juices and waters and teas and everything I could flush her with. I actually jump started her body. Her kidneys were shutting down and all this kind of stuff. Well, we've been back together now for 2 years, right? And what that taught me, I'm still learning from that, because I thought it was just all their belief systems. No one was at harming them. But I mean, my own kids were fighting me to save their mother, but not really. They were fighting with the belief systems. They didn't realize what was going on. And then I started to realize that's why we have world wars, all belief systems. So I just kept working harder with other people, and learning more and more. And then with some other failures, big major failures. Oh my gosh. When I just finally started turning the corner financially a little bit, back down again, boom, back down. And I started saying, you know what? I'm asking for wisdom from above. So it must be credible. I can't make all that up. I know we self-create, right? We create our own lives. So I says, so there's something that I'm not still paying attention to. So anyway, the mastermind, I was doing more and more. The more that would happen, the more I would encourage. Now, my whole background, I've been an encourager because I was the last of 6 kids. We talk about it all the time. Old souls, and and we're, we we just want to save the world, right? So I was the last of 6 kids, and I have the sexual abuse, like many of us have, that come and get onto this path of human healing, because we take that stuff and we learn from it, and then we take it into our hearts, and then we want to serve the world with it. But anyway, so as I keep seeing all these things and these belief systems, I said, man, I have to really go back to that goal. And there's a quote that says, set a goal so high you'll have to live to be the person. You'll have to become the person to achieve it. And that's what's happening to you, Caroline, right?
Mm.
You've set a goal so high, and you got to live to be the person to achieve it. And so our job is to open the doors, and then let God or the universe or the source or divine intelligence, divine integrity, whatever form you want to put that in, you know, you just open the doors and let wisdom from above do the work.
Well,
So when
can I stop you for a
yeah,
second, Fred? Because you said a lot of really, really important things that I just want to kind of look at real quick, because I don't want to just kind of go past it like it's, your story and that's it. Because
right,
it's very important that people understand that, the biggest thing that you said was, asking for wisdom from above. And sometimes when we ask, wisdom is probably wisdom, patience, peace, all these things are better requests than I want a new car, I want a new house, I want, whatever, and praying for
right,
those types of things. But when you ask for wisdom from above, I've noticed in my world, that when I asked for things, I got it, but not in the exact thing that I wanted. What ended up happening was I got sent an experience, and you're talking about that, but I just want people to kind of understand what's happening here, that the response to a prayer or meditation, sitting in meditation and listening to the answers, or however you choose to go about this,
right,
you're not
right.
going to get that thing. You're going to get the experience to teach you the thing that you came to this life for. So when you release all the programming that you're talking about,
Yeah, the
all
belief
the
system
things,
program.
yeah, all the things that we learned as children, all of the not feeling good enough, all of the uh all these things that made us into who we became, and then at times, at least for me, didn't really like. I didn't like that person. I didn't like the fact that I knew I was uh sweet and kind and all this stuff, but I went so far beyond it that I became the good little girl. And you're talking about the inner child work. I became the good little girl, and the good little girl was always like, oh, what can I do for you? Screw me. I don't matter in any of this, because that's the belief system. So
Yeah,
just
yeah.
to kind of wrap it into a whole circle. And then, you also brought up, and there's a lot of this coming out nowadays, is talking about old school religion. It doesn't matter what religion you're saying, you were brought up as a Christian. It doesn't matter, because we run into things where these again, programming and beliefs and fear, and in now I was raised Jewish, and I was baptized, and I was on a search for the true Jesus, because and I've actually discovered the true Jesus. The true Jesus is not anything like anybody's been taught. And I'm like, it's blowing my mind to see, because there's so much discrepancy for me. And this is just an opinion, mine, that in the Bible there's even a discrepancy. When I was reading through the Bible, I'm like, I don't understand why, you know, in the red letters, Jesus is saying this and talking about love and caring for people and, all these things. And then over here, and I believe it's like Paul, or
Mm-hmm.
so,
Yeah,
he's talking about,
possible.
that's not true, and this is terrible, and and it's like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. God is a loving God, higher power is loving, love is what creates the universe, right? And then when I was baptized, it turned out that it was my first husband was independent Baptist, and I was looking for something different because I was raised differently than everybody around me, and so I kind of went into that direction. I went to an independent Baptist church in Texas, And the first time I went, when I was baptized, everything was kind and sweet. Everybody's nice and loving and
I know
all
where
this
you're
stuff,
going.
bringing me in and da da da. Okay. And then the next week, I went back to a service with them, and the preacher's standing in front of everybody going, "You're going to hell because you don't believe in Jesus." Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm thinking, my grandfather, who he was Jewish, I mean, he wasn't like in into the and he it wasn't even about he was Jewish and he believed in Judaism, and that was all wonderful. But the difference between my grandfather and what this guy was talking about was he was kind, he was loving, he was gentle, he accepted everybody, he did not believe in Jesus. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait, so you're telling me my grandfather's going to hell because he doesn't believe in Jesus, and you're screaming at me telling me I'm not good enough if I don't believe in Jesus? Okay, that was my turning point. And so I followed this process, this journey through different types of religion and Native American spirituality and yada, all this stuff. And what is incredible to me is what's happening now. We're in the right place at the right time because consciousness is expanding.
Yeah.
And I am starting to see, and I listened to this on another podcast that, and this could be blasphemy, I don't know, but it feels like the true Jesus, who's 30-year gap of nobody knows where he is and nobody's allowed to know. He was actually in Egypt and India, becoming, uh, meditating and doing all these things and learning how to heal people. And it's like, wait,
Yeah.
so it all got all wrapped in together.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right? And
Well,
so when you talk about that, I just wanted to make sure people understand that or can at least experience or hear or whatever, that there's a
that,
consciousness rising here and
yeah, it's
other
bigger.
stuff coming in.
It's bigger than the consciousness.
It's bigger, right?
Yeah, because
Because it's source
yeah,
energy, and it's love.
yeah. Well,
Um,
the 920 society, and where I was going to end up with that was,
yeah, that's
so when I the mastermind was, I started having all these requests for some coaching and consulting and stuff. Not everyone could afford coaching and consulting, especially one on one. So I said, I'm going to really grow this group, and then I said, wait a minute, what was that thing about the Nobel Peace Prize? And because
yeah.
I am so I realized that these belief system thing, and I'm going, oh my gosh, and it all wraps. So anyway, I converted the mastermind. It was called the Mind Body Mastermind to 920 Society. So I said it's time that I formalize this and shape it and try to really get it to go into a flow, because I've always been a social entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I've done all kind of different social entrepreneur type of work. A lot of prison work. I've dealt with women who murder their children in prison, that are in prison as a result of murdering their own children. I realized every time I would find a problem, I'd fix it. I have a website, troubledwomen.com, is that I try to work on it. And I'd say, okay, I have the means right now, so I'm going to try and work on it. But it was all individual projects. But I mean, I've worked with these kind of people. And like I said, I've flown on the jets with billionaires, and none of it's different, right? There's nothing that makes any of us. So anyway, this mastermind became the 920 Society. So then I started realizing, going, there's three things that it's all about: sanity, right? And so there's three areas of sanity that we have to have. First of all, we have to have sanity of soul, right? And our soul is our mind, our will, and our emotions. Because everyone says it's mindset, mindset, mindset. Mindset is true. It's very important. As a matter of fact, I'm with the Ogmandino organization. We do a thing called Habit Finder, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it's sanity of soul, right? Why is all this insanity of who I am, who I'm not? Why is this? Why is that? Why I'm still, is this bother? Why do I get angry? Anger is nothing but threatened value. That means that, if you're angry, then you're threatened value. If you're depressed and only, that's because you don't know who you are. So there's sanity of soul. And once you realize that that soul, okay, is not to be saved to another dimension, it's to be saved right here. And then if we just want to take the example of, and a lot of people, the Christians will, look at the Muslims and what have you. I've studied the Quran, right? I studied the Bible for 35 years. And I could tell you every area of the Quran that was wrong. Well, I never read it. So I thought that's crazy. So when I started really seeking, I said, I'm going to read the Quran. I joined the JAM, Jews and Muslims for World Peace. And I started realizing that, wait a minute, there's something deeper, something more. And then, of course, the Miracles teaches that the end is not what a lot of people talk about. The Abrahamic religions. Abrahamic religions is made up. The three dominant are Jews, Muslims, and Christians. It all comes from Abraham, Isaac, the whole family thing, the family squabble.
Mhm.
And we don't realize we're all family, but it's all just a squabble that
We
won't
are
stop,
all
right?
one. We are
Yeah,
all
yeah.
one over.
Abraham. Well, what a lot of people don't realize is very simple. We all were made to be. I got to be careful, but we're all made to be Jews, basically, because God promised that through the Messiah that He's going to make Israel one, right? So we're all. But anyway, that's another conversation for another day. If anyone wants to talk about theology, but so the 920 Society, I looked at it. I said, "Wow, I gotta really get social entrepreneurs, stir them up. I need coaches. I need healers. I need people that think outside of the box, right? Because what's going to cause people to come to life is going, I'm not stuck with me, right? I'm not stuck with me. And that, so sanity of soul is so critical. Then you have sanity of success. So, because, this idea of that success is definable is crazy. It's not money. I've been to Haiti, and some of those people are as successful as they can be. They're artfully managing their life daily with living in huts. Um, so sanity of success is that just because I go out and make money is not going to make me happy. Just so I would go out and do this is not going to. As soon as there's no such thing. Success is nothing more than someone who's willing to just keep moving the way we were sent to do, from A to Z. It's really a straight line, right? From birth to death. But what do? We do this, right? And at the Augmentino organization
Well,
with our
that's
habit
human.
fund.
That's just being human. If we, yeah,
Well, no, it's not.
I think
It's
it's a
it's
circle.
it's not knowing how powerful your soul is. So it's more like this. um, so the only reason it's like this is because it's not sanity of soul and sanity of success. And then the sanity of salvation is the third one. And that's why it's really like this, because I think this woman's going to save me. This man's going to save me. This money is going to save me. This business is going to save me. This move in my career is going to save me. This is going to save me. And we're all looking for saviors. Right. Right. And there's nothing to save us from, because we were sent here perfect from love. We were created from love to come down and bring heaven to earth. So there's something about this earth that will go on forever and ever and ever. I mean, look, it heals itself. It takes care of itself. The soil, grows life out of it, and you don't have to do anything. I mean, look at some of the lush jungles when no one touches them, right?
Well,
Beautiful.
right. As long as you feed it
Yeah, no one
correctly.
touches them.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so, but thank God, I mean, there's development because we all have some great places to live. But my only point in saying all that is those three things: sanity of soul, sanity of success, and sanity of salvation. To realize there is no savior coming to save us. The Jews have a problem with it. They think a Messiah is coming. The Christians have a problem with it, thinking Jesus is coming again. And the Muslims think that you know Mohammed's coming back. What is this thing that we've been allowed to? It's called eschatology. To put an ology with it. It's called eschatology, the study of end times, the study of end things. Well, of course, a miracle says the end of all thing is the end of our thinking and limited thinking. To realize that we're perfect just the way we are. That's what a Course in Miracles says the end is. Once we all come to that same knowledge. So every time you listen to an encouragement like this, we get closer and closer to it. It may take another 1,000 years, but so we are just obsessed with salvation. So we've got to bring sanity to it. What saves a person? And if you want to take Jesus called a woman in adultery. They were ready to stone her. The religious people were ready to stone her to death. Jesus said to her something very simple. First, he said to them, "He who is without sin, cast the first stone." They dropped their stones and walked away. He simply said a couple words: "Where are thy accusers?" She said, "They're gone." He said, "Neither do I accuse you. Go and sin no more." And what is sin? Sin is nothing more than missing a mark that you really are, who you really are. You're a woman. You're beautiful. You're bountiful. You're blissful. Stop. Go and sin no more. Find that glory that God made you to come with. It wasn't go out and have sex to do this to that, or I just spent 3.5, 4 months traveling
Yeah,
in
we could be
Tennessee.
on here for 8 hours if we
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
about
I
that
tell you,
part of it. I
right?
know,
So,
I get that because there's just so
but
much that we've been
anyway,
taught that's off
the
the mark.
920, the
Let's just
920
send what we've been
is the
taught, Fred.
yeah. But the 920 is to get people to come in and with one unified is that help me get to who I really am.
Mm-hmm.
Help me find who I really am so I can change. Then I can go change my little world around me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can change the world, because nothing
Ripple
changes
effect.
until I change.
Right.
And that's what it's about. It's to try to help individuals, then take it to the next level, help them change their little environment around them. And then beyond that, I said, then change the world. There's not a soul that you'll ever meet that will not in a conversation eventually say, if you were to hit a $50 million lottery, what would be the first thing you do? 90% of them will end up saying, I would do something philanthropic. I would do something for society. I would do something, feed the poor. I ask little kids that all the time. You know, if God is so good, why is the world got so many problems? I do that. I do that intentionally. It's challenge. That's what Socrates did in his day and age. And, you know, I always then say, well, he did. It's you to
Mm-hmm.
solve the problems. So I did it to my 9-year-old granddaughter many, many years ago. And when we're driving the car and she pulled down the sun visor, I said, pull down the sun visor. I'll give you the answer. I said, look in there. Who is that? I said, God sent you here to help. So, you know, so that's sanity of salvation. So that society was set up, hopefully, to stir up 9,200,000 people to become what I call twisdomologists. When you go into 920 society, you're going to see a clock. And on that clock, you're going to see 6 years for every 5 minutes on the clock. That represents 72 years. The average lifespan on planet Earth for the average human being today is 73 years. So you got 72 years of the wisdom clock to really get your wisdom together. So you can take advantage of the time that you've been given. And I call it Twisdom. And I actually had a trademark. So I'm trying to find 9,200,000 Twisdomologists that has no system of belief. I have a 92 theses that are in there. It's really fun stuff. Read down the 92 theses. So I want to create. So some of my relatives, of course, are busting my chops. Oh, you're going to start another worldwide religion, huh? I said, no, just the opposite. I'm going
Yeah.
to unreligionize everybody. So Twisdomology, I have a book being written, and I thought it would be done by the end of this month, but that's not going to happen. But Twisdomology, all about the dance of time and wisdom, and that every soul, every person that's born has a unique soul that is like the thumbprint, and it's like their DNA. And divine intelligence and divine integrity is in communication with each individual differently, right? And with experiences and everything else to find our little part, but then all together we're one soul.
Mm-hmm.
So, everybody's soul is different. They're just like the thumbprint and DNA. Once we get that, and there's nothing wrong with any of them. And someone's going to say, wait a minute, you're going to tell me there's nothing wrong with Hitler? Just his belief systems. If Hitler was raised by your parents, he'd be you, right? If he was raised by your circumstances, he'd be you. So now what do you do with that, right? And it's true. I mean, the movie
Well,
The Shack.
but the interesting thing about that is with Hitler is he was traumatized also as a child. Oh, by the way.
Listen. It's amazing. It's amazing. Once we get there's a verse for those people that in the scripture says, "Be ye perfect as your heavenly Father's perfect." Well, some people read that, go, in the Christian, hey, that's what I'm doing. All that means, what is perfection? Knowing that there's nothing that lacks. That's perfection.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right down this present moment, you're perfect. I don't care what bills are in your closet. I don't care what,
Yeah. And the
I
thing
don't care. You're
the thing
perfect.
is that the perfection runs deep. Like we don't feel perfect. So we feel like we have to like you were talking about your path and you looking for your perfect was in real estate and all the things that you've done. There's we've been taught that we are not good enough. So we go out, we're wearing makeup, we've got to do all these different things just to appear perfect. But the perfection is inside. It's there already. It's a flicker of light. And all we have to do is clean all the traumas and everything out of there to let it grow. And when we let it grow, it shifts our entire life into what you're talking about. Now, I am going to throw something in that I'd like to bring up is, I like how you're working into doing the things that you're doing. What I'm learning, because I was very, I still to this day think my dad wanted a boy. So everything that I did was all about trying to do things and making things happen and all this stuff. And when I got to the point when I went through either the same, I think it's the same course you went through or a similar one, I realized that there's a girl in here, and there's receptiveness
Oh,
and
that's right. I forgot. We did take the same
flow
part. Yeah.
and
The living
beauty
course.
and all this stuff, right? And because I wanted to make sure that came out because I know you know that. But it's like
I forgot that we went to the same,
we
the living
did,
course.
we did.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting about all that is it led to each step, like you're saying, the one step led to the next step, led to the next step, and kept going for me to keep understanding and discovering all these things about myself that I had no idea. And what the most important thing is, like, in clearing out that trauma and the energy of the trauma helped me to realize that it's not even what we do. Like, I forced everything. There's a book written, I forget the guy's name, Power versus Force. Who's the guy who wrote that book? Do you remember?
I'm not sure. Not
I
familiar.
can't think of, like, anyway. So there's power and strength, which is who we are, and then there's force, like forcing things to happen, forcing ourselves to be who we're not, and forcing all this stuff. And nothing, when it didn't work, it actually kept re-traumatizing. And when I realized that when I just allowed and let things go, healed, I mean, believe me, I went through a lot of mattresses. You'll know what I'm talking about. A lot of mattresses trying to get this stuff out of me because I knew it was an energy. And when it came out, it was like all of a sudden, 8 years later, all of a sudden, things just started to naturally just show up. And I kept reading about all this stuff, and it was like, okay, I see how this works now. So it's not as hard as we make it. The manifestation piece is not hard. Once we heal, once we clear the body, once we do all this stuff, the connection clears up within the nervous system, within the chakras, within however you want to look at the body, the meridians, the systems. And then there's an automatic connection to heaven, so to speak, on earth. And then there's an automatic connection to Mother Earth, and you can start feeling it. And it's just, I'm awe inspired, and I don't even know what words to use because 30 plus years of doing this work, and now a month ago I see this, eye-opening thing. And it's like, and to have a place where people can come to, like you're providing, to start moving through this stuff, because I know you're doing work with also with A Course in Miracles as well, and I've done A Course in Miracles, and I've experienced similar things. And being raised Jewish, like I said, it helped me to understand more things, but I kept going with it so I could understand it more and more, and be able to even talk. Like years ago, maybe 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I would have been afraid to talk to somebody like you, right?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Because you're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars that you've had gone in and out of your, and I'm like, what? I've got financial trauma from the Holocaust. What are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I see
We're
that.
all one, right? We're all one, and we're students and teachers of one another. I learn more. I have right now. I have a 15-year-old. I do. If you look at my website, my coaching, I do 4-quarter coaching, right? First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. I say life is like a football game. You get 4 quarters, and if you look at the clock, right, they're 15 minutes each, right, as you go around. The twistomology clock. So one of my coaching clients said, "Will you coach my son?" And I said, "How old is he?" He said, 15. I said, "I would love to coach him." I said, "That's first quarter, man. That's great. I want to get a hold of him. That'd be great." So what's really interesting is that when we got together, you know, it's like I'm the hero, I'm the savior, and her mom's so happy, and he's so now changing, and like I've learned more from him than he has from me. That he
100%.
that
Yep.
that that kind of real purpose is out there. He just doesn't know it, right?
Yeah.
So we're students and teachers of one another, which of
Yes.
course teaches.
Yes.
And then if I may, I'm gonna just share this ego chart, and this has been in the process of my entire life, not knowing it. Is that this idea of the soul and ego, right? You know, I had when I tried to start, I did a 501(c) many years ago, right? And it was just a self-formed thing that I did. But for example, the word heart comes from the Latin word core, right? COR, right? To speak one's mind by telling all one's heart, by really being identified with yourself, right? The unexamined life is not worth living, says Socrates. But our heart's been eaten away at, right? Like sexual abuse for me from 3 to 5, and your situation that you and I've talked about before, shared, and everyone else's, right? So, but what happens is we lost our heart, right? So we had to be programmed to survive, which I love Dr. Bruce Lipton's work in epigenetics, but we became an ego instead of just our soul. So we're running around with this ego and soul, left brain, right brain, the bad wolf, the good wolf, right? We go. The Indians call it the two wolves within, the white and the black wolf, right? So, but this, if you look at this chart, the right side, left side is in comparison. The ego is nothing more in life than the thermometer, right? Is it just tries to reflect everything and always, and then, but what happens? You want to try and turn it up. As soon as you start working over here, this comes down. So what you were just saying, the more I started learning this, what happened is your soul, you're paying attention to your soul intelligence, the wisdom from above, and you're letting the wisdom from below go lower. Because the more I move this up, the longer this goes down. So the wisdom from above is all about, the ego, the soul. If you look over here, right, ego, it's about fear. The soul is about love. The ego is about competition. The soul is about cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
The ego is about judgment. The soul is about forgiveness. The ego is about doing. The soul is about being. The ego is all about performance. I got to perform on this podcast, right? But no, I just need to be me. You need to be you, right? So, and then here's a big one. What am I here for? Getting. I mean, I got to get this done. I got to get that done. I got to get an A. I got to get another $1,000,000. I got to prove. Right? All perceptions and lies over here. Why am I here? Giving. Vision, truth. What's the vision for why I'm here, right?
That looks like divine
What's the,
masculine and divine feminine,
yeah, the same thing.
because
I mean,
there's a
you go
balance in this stuff.
always,
Yeah.
for instance, with smoking and habits, and I'm very effective at that because I realize that it's just nothing more than just a part of the ego. Because when you're over here, you have the monkey mind, the goal mind, right? Over here, it's tension relieving. Over here, it's goal achieving. Over here, I got to smoke pot. It's just an in thing to relieve tension. Over here, I don't need pot. I have so many goals. I don't have time for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Substance abuse, because if you live over here, you gotta have some substances in your life. Got to. I'm writing this book, and I was traveling. My significant other, my soul wife, I call her now. Instead of soulmate, my soul wife. She had to have knee replacement surgery while we were traveling in Tennessee for 3.5 months. So I got a little bit lazy. I put on 20 pounds. I didn't care. I was abusing some substances. I said, I'll do it. I don't care. Because I was, had my ego going a little bit because I was determined to get that book done, blah, blah, blah. But it's okay. I came back because I decided I got to live in the soul, right? And then I mastered something else so that's what you're talking about in practicality. And look at these charts, one after the other. This is all going into the book. Is that every single one of them? Over here you're just talking about it. Mask. We have to have mask, and we have to take certain roles. Over here it's a mask remover, and that's what you're doing with your work. Is that you're removing masks, right? So, anyway, with the soul and ego, that's your battle. Is just
Mm-hmm.
living on that right side. Always remember, if there's any conflict, you're in the ego.
Mm-hmm.
If it's peace, you're in the soul. If you're peace, it's the thermostat. You are adjusting the thermostat a little bit, right? You have to go over there because that's the only way you get the cooler in your room. And the ego, forget about it. If your things are not feeling good, you're you're blowing on the thermostat, trying to get something. I mean, the thermometer, trying to get
Yeah.
something to happen. So
Yeah.
it's called the soul versus ego battle, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I have a couple of questions I wanted because I'm curious about who you are and how, from your own journey and how you've dealt with a lot of the stuff that you've shared. A lot of people in the old soul, highly sensitive and empath group are always asking questions about, you know, what kind of strategies can I use well, mostly with as an empath is like to protect ourselves, but also how to take care of yourself so you can assist others on their journey. Like if something comes up in your life, what do you do to kind of come back center, I guess is the best way to ask that question.
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that because again, I mean, I've been doing this work all my life, basically, like with the soul ego, that clock, twism, not realizing how big it was, right? that clock, the twisdomology clock. I started when I was a 23-year-old salesman one time, and I came across the Psalm where King David said, "Teach us to number our days that we may apply our heart unto wisdom."
Mm.
And I used to teach time management courses to salespeople when I was a young salesman, and I used that number in our days, and I was calculating back then. So the number one thing you need to remember as a twisdomologist, okay, is time is perfect and wisdom is perfect. You're not going to beat the clock. You're not going to the clock. You're on the clock basically. Like if you go to work, you're on the clock. So if you're not sure, just be still. Be still and know that I'm God is one of the Jewish scriptures, right? Be still and know that I'm God. But the number one thing, any conflict, and you're not living over the soul. Times can wait for you. Time is very patient. It's waited for me for 70 years. Going to wait. And the other thing is, when are the hell are we going to learn that our number one goal is to get out of here? Our bodies, right?
Well,
For our
yeah,
number one
yeah.
goal is to be at heaven while we're here.
Well,
But then
right.
our bodies only become so. Stop it. Stop
Well,
stressing, right? So,
here's the weird, I mean, it's hard because people who are traumatized, or most
oh
people,
yeah,
I think it's most people based off of teachings, whether it's religious or education or whatever, we're afraid to die. We're not taught how to die. I'll admit, I've been afraid to die my whole life. I'm just now working on how not to be that, right? And if
well,
you're afraid to die,
well,
huh?
yeah. You don't work on that, right? What you do is just be,
Well, yes,
because
but
the time is, because fear is false evidence appearing real. We've all heard it. False education appearing real. So what we got to realize is respect. There's a clock that we are time beings for our physical existence, but then there's a wisdom from above, which is our spiritual existence, right? We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that we got to stop getting over on that left side of the chart.
mm-hmm.
For instance, tension relieving, because if I stop believing that I'm going to die, or I'm not afraid anymore, still you're just trying to relieve a little tension. But over here it's just goal achieving, and goal achieving is, it doesn't matter. I mean, time has got its own thing, right? The other thing, we none of
Well,
us were here 100 years ago,
let
and we
me
won't be
finish let me
here.
finish my thought real
Go,
quick because I have a
go
question
ahead. I'm sorry.
related to, because so time though to me is circular. It's always ongoing. It's not like in our world, in the three-dimensional world, it's point A to point B because everything is directional,
Right.
to me it's like time is all over. When you're sitting there doing something that you love, there's no time. It's irrelevant. It just goes,
That's my point.
it's gone,
Yeah.
right?
Uh,
But what I was gonna say was like the piece about being afraid to die. Yeah, I get that's some of the verbiage I still use, and I'm working
well,
on
no, we all. Yeah.
I'm working on
Yeah.
that. No, I'm kidding. But what I have noticed is that in that process of being afraid to die, we are afraid to live. And when we're afraid to live, then we don't know what to do because we get mixed up in all of that programming and all of that not good enough and all of that stuff, and it comes back and it gets crazy and we don't know what to do, and there's really no one out there. This is just a statement or belief system. I think there's nobody out there who can help us, which is not really true. I mean, we're here to grow. Like there's so many times where I was desperate, where I reached out to people because I had this fear. These fears just start showing up, dying, unknowns, all this stuff. And I'll reach out to somebody and nobody's there. Nobody's there for me to talk to. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Why is this happening? Oh, because you want me to depend on myself and not somebody else. So
San-
as you go
sanity of
through this
salvation.
process, what?
Yeah. Sanity of salvation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But as you go through this process and you drop these beliefs and these things, it's like the fears start to go away. The living starts to happen. I was dead to myself, literally. Well, not literally, but literally in my mind. I was dead to myself for most of my life because I didn't know how to get out of it.
Right.
And when I realized what I was doing to myself, I also, moving over into the soul, because I'm desperate. When you're an ego, there's a desperation there to get things done, to do whatever, all the stuff you were referring to, there's a desperation. In soul, there's no desperation. There's none of that exists.
Stillness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
On that chart on the left, it says story to the left. The ego is all about story. The soul is all about stillness.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Just knowing that it's okay. Like for instance, in wisdomology, I say that it's a dance of life, right? And we don't have to like the music. We're not here to like the music. We're here to learn dance steps. And so you learn the dance steps to your Facebook group and your community, and look how people started flowing in there because you were listening to the music, right? You opened the door, God did the work,
Mm-hmm.
right? The universe, the power, whatever you want to call it. And so with when we're struggling, I have a chart for that. Am I struggling or am I stretching? So you're really stretching. And number one thing is you got to have a vision because wisdom is full of vision. Wisdom is the ability to see and to choose the highest possible goal
Mm-hmm.
together with the surest means of obtaining it. That was from one of my mentors, Bill Goff. Is that you got to have a vision. And if you don't have a vision for your life, then you just be very, very still and you say, give me a vision from above. Give me wisdom from above. Give me. Yesterday, I'm sitting here, as always, none of us ever are exempt from it after the day I had on Monday, which was great. And I went, Monday, I went to, you ask how I deal with it. I just said, you know what? It's not my deal. It's okay. It's okay.
Not
And
my
boy, if I describe,
circus, not my
yeah,
monkeys.
yeah, yeah. And I said,
Yeah.
I'm going to I go to bed very early because I'm up at 2:30, 3 o'clock. So right around 7 o'clock. And I said, 7:15 sounds good to me. So I just brought up, I said, it's okay. It's okay. So I woke up, man, I was so full of creativity and some of the things I got done the next day. And that morning, because I was thinking, what are you doing? You still got this real estate thing going? Because I'm supporting all these promotions for 920 all by myself. I get a call from a guy, and you're going to be hearing from him on 920 Society that he needs, or not, he's looking for, to get the word out what he's doing in Israel. And that is they're buying up SaaS companies for those people that are fighting the war because their companies are starting to go downhill. So they're buying them in trust. I mean, the work that they're doing brings tears to your eyes, right? So, because anyway, so he reaches out to me and he said, "Hey, look, I want to talk to you about this and what we're doing with big projects." And I'm talking about raising tens of millions of dollars um, to buy these companies to hold them in trust for these people who are over there fighting for whatever they're fighting for their freedom and or fighting for their peace and stuff. So, and because a lot of people don't realize that whole war and conflict is from a family squabble,
That
Abraham,
has
Isaac,
been
and
going
Jacob.
on for how
Right,
long?
right. And,
Yeah.
and so what we don't realize is that also, as long as Israel is free, the Palestinians would go. It's really just the people that are so far left is that they're ruining all the stuff. People that want to be in the center, right? All those Palestinians are not terrorists, right? So anyway, with the work that they're doing is it will save everything, right? Because they're going to have so much wealth when they come back from the war to be able to heal that land. Um, not just Israel, but it's going to affect the Palestine, the Palestinian people because it's these people are very caring about the Palestinian people. A lot of people don't realize that. What's going on over there from a
Mm-hmm.
history standpoint, number one, and number two, from really the heart of the people as well. But anyway, my only point in saying that is that I let go on Monday, right? And if I explain my Monday, I wouldn't even do it publicly. Some of the crazy stuff that happened on Monday, but I just said, "Huh, I'm going to learn a new dance step here. I know I can just feel it." And so anyway, yeah, you just let go, let God. It just
Mm-hmm.
John Lennon's song is my favorite song. Imagine. Um,
Mm-hmm.
right now, life is perfect because I'm in the present moment, and so when I start to get outside and I feel uncomfortable, I know I'm not in the present moment, right?
So
And
that
so
helps. This next question I'm going to ask you is how do you maintain a high frequency when you're faced with challenging situations or negative energy?
I think the number one thing is to see that negative or whatever it is you think is negative, it's just the way you're seeing things, right? Is that if I have a good enough vision, I'm going, wow, that's going to reinforce my vision. That's going to
Well,
reinforce me. It's going to make me better.
it's not necessarily a negative thing because sometimes when we come across situations or whatever and the person that we're with is negative. and and
Yeah.
staying centered and staying in that higher vibration.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, but it's definitely too saying, what could I learn from this? What could I?
Oh yeah.
How can this change me? Right? I tell people that we're not here to change anything. We're here to be changed by everything. Right? Now you're talking about someone that's been doing social entrepreneur work all their life. You're talking about people that I've been in and out of the prisons all my life and stuff. So, well, why am I doing it? Aren't I trying to change nothing? No, I really try to change me, right? And or really to figure out what I'm here for. So, that's the main thing is that you don't interpret anything outside of you because first of all, you never see things the way they truly are. You only see things the way you are. And you're always
From
looking
your
at life through,
programming, from your
yeah,
beliefs and from your
you're,
programming, right?
you're only looking through a mirror. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're feeling uncomfortable, you're looking in a mirror, right?
Yeah.
Anger
Oh,
is threatened value.
yeah.
Um, and it's our habits of thinking too. We have this, we were sent here with a divine mind, right? But we were programmed from people who had an ego, right? Because they had to do that for their defense mechanism. So once we stay centered, that's why I love the Augmandino work. When you do my little profile, by the way, you need to take that. We got to have you take that.
Yeah.
The soul versus ego
Yeah.
assessment. It's only 10 minutes. It's on my homepage, DeFalco.com. But because your habits of thinking, Augmandino in his 10 scrolls, right? Our habits of thinking were designed to just take us like a torpedo straight through the water. And a torpedo, look, your mind's a torpedo, by the way, is that it is a torpedo. It's impossible to program a torpedo to be perfect. So they don't program it to be perfect. They program it to only get that far off to the left and only that far off to the right. And when it gets that far to the right, it goes back to the left. When it gets back, and that's what we got to do. When we're around somebody, just don't get off too far to the left. Don't get too far to the right. And then you say, what's going on? Why am I feeling that? And then you just do this, right? And then you
Don't
just,
they talk about airplanes doing this? They do the same thing in airplanes, like the
yeah.
pilot is adjusting. They don't fly
Oh,
a straight line. They're
yeah, I
always
have,
in
yeah.
that.
I
Yeah.
used to fly little small planes, right? I have 151 flying hours. You don't want to go
Yeah.
flying with me, but
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, it's always it's always the balance, right? So,
Mhm.
but yeah, no, it's just first of all, time and wisdom. Man, if we just want to get it once in our life, weren't here 100 years ago, won't be here 100 years from now. So what in the world is it bothering me for right now? Right?
Right? Yeah. No, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
it really does because and that saved me many times. I just
Hmm.
said I always chuckle at myself. Ogmandino scroll number 4 says, "I will laugh at the world today." I know scroll 7. I think I will laugh at the world. I will laugh at the world today. By the way, any of your listeners, if you have never read The Greatest Salesman in the World, we're all salespeople. We have to sell ourselves on ourselves. That's the number one thing. And Og Mandino's book that only sold about 30 million copies, The Greatest Salesman in the World with the 10 scrolls. And if you don't want to read it, then go to my website and look at the scroll, my YouTube channel. I have all 10 of them in video now. Um,
So I have a
but
question about being a salesperson of yourself.
yeah,
Um, I was a salesperson of things that I'd rather not have been a salesperson of. Insurance and that sort of thing. And at some point I learned that piece about being a salesperson of myself. However, as you're talking, I'm getting this thought that's like, well, if you are who you are and you are your truth, do you really need to sell yourself?
you have to show yourself all the truth. That's the point. Is
Well,
stay there.
but and right. But that's in the world we live in. But if
No,
there
I'm
was
talking about the use your analogy. If I'm standing around someone, they have negative energy, right?
oh right,
Is
right, right. Okay.
that as long as I'm sitting there selling myself and myself and not getting off, going, oh, I'm
Gotcha.
okay,
Okay, that's
I'm
what
okay,
you're
I'm
that's
okay.
what you're I was just
Yeah,
it sounded
yeah,
like you went off somewhere and I was like, let me
yeah.
ask that question because
Good
I'm wondering
catch,
that.
good
Yeah.
catch, good
Yeah.
catch. But no, really, it's about just saying I'm okay.
Yeah.
It's
I'm okay. I'm okay.
yeah,
I'm okay.
and not only that, but you know, people are either they're either given a call for love, right? Attitudinal Healing International, which is another organization I'm involved with, which is a powerful site, ahinternational.org. They're all over the world. That was formed on the Course of Miracles, by the way. Attitudinal Healing International. Look it up. The 12 Principles of Attitudinal Healing. That is a big help. Big help.
Okay.
Um, yeah. 12 Principles of Attitudinal Healing. Look it up. It's all over the web, all over the net.
So much to
So
look for.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the 12 principles are really
Ah,
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The 12 principles are really good. Number one thing is that to be sold on your soul, send it. There's three things: SOS, SOS, SOS. When you feel an SOS call coming on, right? Like, that means you're not either sanity of soul, sanity of success, or sanity of salvation.
Mm.
Those three things. So SOS, when you feel like you're in an emergency and you need to make an SOS call, all it is one of those three. Either you're messing one of them up or all three of them. And they all get
Out of
messed up at one point.
balance, a little bit
Yeah.
out of balance, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for that. Here's the first question I want to ask. What does awakening mean to you at this time on the planet?
I would say awakening to me is, again, I have to do it, but and I don't want to be redundant, but just staying in the present moment. Because
Mm.
when you're not in the present moment, you're not awake. I can have the biggest awakening in the world, but as soon as I go out here and I look and start comparing to the right and to the left, oh, they're better than I am. No, no, no. Gee, how do they get that? Then I'm not awake, right? So awakening is just being present moment, that I am in the presence of Almighty Universe or Almighty God or Almighty Source, Almighty Divine Intelligence, and that I'm okay just the way I am. I
Mm.
don't need anything to change it.
Yes. Great answer. I love that. Okay. What does soul divinity mean to you?
Well, soul divinity is, I really believe it. Like we have our own intelligence, right? Our IQ. We have our emotional intelligence. So I believe there's that soul intelligence. That's that higher call that's calling us, right? So when you talk about soul divinity, I just believe that when you not believe, I don't even like the word believe. I've used that now 3 or 4 times. Forgive me for that.
You're
um,
forgiven. You're
but
forgiven. You're
yeah,
forgiven.
yeah. But I'm perfect. You don't need to.
You're
Thank you very
perfect.
much.
Don't need to
Uh,
ask for that.
by the way, there's so many prayers are unanswered because we ask God to do something that's out of character. God, dear God, please help me. He can't. He's already given you all he's got.
Right?
He don't need.
It's already there.
So soul divinity. There you go. That's one of the soul divinities, right? But the soul intelligence to me is that you got to realize is that you are so different in one way, different thumbprint, different DNA, different soul print, but you're all one with the other one because your different soul print is mine, right? So we're together. It's just like my hand. I've got fingers on it, but I also got a hand, and then it's attached to an arm. And can you imagine? I don't like the arm, but I'll take the hand, please, and the fingers. Soul divinity to me is just realizing that I'm much bigger than I ever can imagine, right? That I am eternal, right? That it's not. I don't need to have to think about anything else. I am, right? So that's soul divinity to me.
Hmm. That's beautiful. Thank you. What is God or source?
Oh wow! I mean, God is source. I really truly believe that. Again, see, I said it. You didn't catch me. I caught myself. But no, is that
You believe. You
yeah, yeah.
know. Use the word know.
No,
I
not even no.
know.
I'm experiencing
I'm
that
experienced. Yeah.
the God of the God of creation, divine intelligence, divine integrity. When I walk through the forest and I see green stuff growing and this growing and mushrooms growing and flowers growing and birds singing, is that this big source, right? And then I also believe that in the revelations through different writings of all these different things that's happened over the years. So that's why I bring in wisdomology, time and wisdom. I can learn from all of that. And then I do believe in the historical writings of the scriptures, of the Jewish scriptures, the New Testament, and all that. Is that there's a work going on through the wisdom of God, through the wisdom from above, that's bringing us to that divine state on earth. Because there's got to be something that's going on. Because when you look and compare us to the 1300s, where 70% of all males died in war and conflict, the percentage you can't even measure it today. I know it seems like the world's at war, but when you look at the amount of the population that is involved in war and conflict, it's so minute. So, and then you see this awareness going on, and these people that are look at the solar eclipse. Remember how everyone had everything in one in common? As soon as we start looking to the sky, we're fine, right? But it's when we start looking into our pulpits and into our synagogues and into our mosque and into our, my what I wear or don't wear, and we start trying to figure all this stuff from the outside. As long as we're from the inside out, we're good.
Mm.
And God is so, when I joined Jews and Muslims for World Peace, when I was on the search for a truth, right? I sat there and I listened to some of these minds that were so beautiful. And then I'm sitting there with the guilt because I said, oh, but wait a minute. That's not exactly the way it fit into my other box there. And I said, I'm sitting here. I was the only Christian in the entire auditorium. And because there's Jews and Muslims for world peace. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, I can't believe. And then it came to me. It says, if I'm big enough, to believe in, I'm big enough to wrap my arms around all things, right? And that I'm a part of all things. All truth is God's truth, no matter who utters it, right? It's like Muhammad, is that, I mean, he gets such the bad rap for being so radical, and he kind of radical. Jesus is kind of radical, flipping tables over in temples, right?
That's the
but
one I
but
like.
yeah, the Jews and Christians used to make Muhammad read publicly and put their finger over their own scriptures because it was too convicting to them. The history. I mean, that's
Yeah.
in written history. So what we got to realize is all those history books, all that experience, all that wisdom, all that is not to be lived today, but to learn from and say, where is that taking us? That it's like piling up on a mountain almost. All those books, all those writings, all that wisdom, Socrates, all these people, look at the Stoics. They have the best answers. I love, the Stoics, right? And you start piling them all up. Where's it taking us? It's taking us to John Lennon. Just imagine.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Uh,
That's
yeah. So anyway, I was having a conversation with my Jewish friend yesterday who's doing this work in Israel. And we were talking about this, concept of eschatology, how it's cursing the world, because deep down inside, when we have that belief that I don't want to serve everybody and anybody, I want to be inclusive. And I said, we got so hung up that thinking there's a Messiah, no matter whether you're Muslims, Jews, or Christians, all Abrahamic religions. But I'm the Messiah. He's the Messiah. He's saving a lot of people right now, saving their business. I'm saving when I do a coaching call and someone's ready to kill each other, or whatever, or either their business is failing miserably and they can't figure it out. At that point, I'm their Messiah, and that's what
well, that's
all of us are here for.
co-creation. That's
Yeah,
co-creation with
yeah,
God or source or whatever you believe it to
yeah.
be. It's co-creation with each other. That's why they talk about, like, imagine a one of those disco balls. Like the ball is God and all the little mirrors are us.
Right,
And we're working
right.
together and making this really pretty thing go around the room,
For 60, 70, 80, 90 years, yeah.
Right, exactly.
And then, and what's really, what I love is the replenishment program God has going, right? We think we mean something. I ask, you know how many people can answer this question? What was your great grandfather's name?
My great grandfather's name. Ooh,
Yeah, on your father's side.
on my father's side. David.
What was your great grandmother's name? I mean, great grandfather's
Catherine.
name on your mother's side. On your mother's
Catherine.
side. Okay. Now, what was your great great grandfather's name?
I don't know because it's in
That's
the
where we lose. That's
it's
where I
in my
lose everybody.
ancestry.com, but I have it.
That's where I lose everybody, right? So, can
Yeah.
you imagine? Now, how many years ago was that? It was only 100 and I don't. I
150.
won't talk about your age, but it's not that long ago. It's not that long ago, and you don't even remember the poor fellow.
Well,
So
because because
what
you
the
know how
heck?
much crap is in my mind. I mean, come on. What do
But
you
not only you, all of
I
us.
know, I understand. But that's the thing.
Uh,
All of us have so much in here and we're missing this part of it.
well, but it doesn't matter, does it? Because he's already done. He served his part or her part.
Well, now this
You
could
know.
be another conversation another time, but in my mind it does because generational trauma comes down through the DNA.
Oh
So
yeah, but I'm saying that I had you watch the movie The Shack, right? Because
yeah,
that's my
yeah, a long
yeah,
time ago, a while
yeah.
ago. Yeah.
I have everyone watch The Shack, right? Talk about that, but that's in the past. There is no past, right? And I don't need to worry about the future either. So I need to be consumed with the present moment. I'm here for this next for me, hopefully 30 years. But whatever it is the same. That's what all I need to be concerned about. That's
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
don't need to think about the future. I don't need to think about the past.
No.
And I forgive the past. I forgive myself. I forgive God. For what I think that maybe he could have done a better job at. Like, why did he make lice? Why did he make mosquitoes? Why, come on,
Okay, now
God.
that's like going really down a weird but okay.
I love it. I love it.
So I've got one more question for you, and then we've got like a two kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
debate
Wrap
thing.
it up.
What is unconditional love?
Well, I have a poem, and you'll probably find it in 920 Society, and it's a very short poem, but it says, "Love itself needs no modifiers." Right? It's complete just the way it is, right? And we got it all wrong. It's called Dear Human. Maybe you can find it on the internet because it's anonymous. I found it for my two granddaughters' 21st birthday, and it goes, "Dear Human, you've got it all wrong. You did not come here to learn unconditional love. You are unconditional love,
Yep.
and we're here to learn mussy love, sloppy love, messing up often love, and so unconditional love to me is who we are, right? But we
Hmm.
don't yet know how to fulfill it. And not even knowing is part of the unconditional love.
It's
And
part of it's part of our journey.
yeah, yeah, part of our journey. And then of course you have the different, the Greeks. Our English language is so limited. The Greeks have the best, with agape and philios and all the other type of loves. But the agape love, the best love is just the intrinsic value,
Hmm.
right? Just the real, true intrinsic, knowing that, Caroline, no matter what you ever say to me, no matter what you ever do, no matter what you haven't done in your life, it doesn't matter. You have that intrinsic value of divine love, of unconditional love. You're worthy of it,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
Okay, well that was really a great conversation. I appreciate that.
yeah. Vice
How
versa.
can vice versa? Yay. How can people get in touch with you?
420answers.com. Points to DeFalco.com, or if you remember my last name, DeFalco.com. And then that QR code is the Facebook Community Mastermind. It is a private mastermind. There's no charge for that. I started that because not everyone can afford personal coaching and consulting. So I wanted to have a community. It's still not as active because it's a kind of a pivoting thing, and I've been gone for 4 months. But come in, introduce yourself on a video, say, "Hey, here's who I am. This is what I'm looking for from this community. Who can help me?" I have a guy from Pakistan right now. I'm so excited about it. A pecan farmer. Because of that, we found one another. What I've been able to do for him at the kind of, exchange rate, right? It means the world to him, right?
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that it's going to work out where I've changed him a little bit because his way of thinking somewhat, and he's a young enough guy that where he's able to do some real social media influencing and stuff, is that, and I don't have to have conversations about him being Muslim and I being, neutral or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's what I showed him, and the attention that I'm giving. What is love? Love is paying attention, right? Love is time. Love is listening, right? So I listened to him. I said, So I felt that was a part of it. So the 920 Society, come in there, introduce yourself. What can the community do for you? What can I do for you?
Mhm.
And but if you want to connect with me directly, that website there, defalco.com. Take the soul versus ego. Now, I can't take the time to do the analysis one-on-one with you for the result. You'll 44-page result back of your habits of thinking. What your intrinsic value really is, but how far you're getting off to the left and how far you're getting off to the right. It's like this. What are you paying attention to? And what you want to pay attention to is yourself, right? And that 44-page analysis from the Augmentin organization is powerful. That's
Mhm.
right on the homepage, defalco.com.
Okay. All right. And
Yeah.
also too, like masterminds in general, I just want to speak this. Masterminds in general are like when you put a few people's minds together and everybody has an experience and an idea and they can share it and they hear yours and they're like, oh, I know somebody, or oh, I know what to do. I've experienced this, or whatever is like you can't find that anywhere else. You
You
can't,
can't. And the
yeah.
reason I did that is because when I was growing up and the sanity of success, I wish I would have come across something like this because someone would have got me back on park saying, "Let me tell you what you're experiencing, why you're not satisfied, for your first million, second million, third million, why you're not." And so I want it to be so all encompassing. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I need everybody that is willing to look at themselves and live Socrates' quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Look at Twisdomology. If you don't want to use the name Twisdomologist or have it on your shirt, that's okay. uh, because Twisdomology and the 92 thesis is pretty well thought out. So it's all about just being us, being
Mm-hmm.
us,
Mm-hmm.
taking the journey together.
Excellent. That's great. Is there anything else that you want to share with the
Oh, yeah, I've got
before
three
we
more
go?
hours worth here.
No. In less
Ah.
than a minute, is there anything else that you want to share before we go?
No, that's it. Just know who you just who would you be if you didn't know who you were? And that is beautiful and bountiful and blissful. You're just perfect the way you are. That's the main thing.
Perfect. All right.
All right. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here.